Of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Bostock.
Present.
Commissioner Larson.
Present.
Commissioner West.
Present.
Commissioner Barnes.
Present.
Commissioner Stoffren. Here. Commissioner Garage, he did send a thing to Kayla saying he wasn't able to make tonight due to previous business, so that is absolutely fine. We also have our mayor here, Mr. Swanson.
Present.
And our city planner, Mr. Lick.
Present.
Kayla, did you get all the claim forms? Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to B, approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. If anybody has any additions, subtractions, changes, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to approve as is.
I make the motion to approve as is.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, approved as is. Okay, brings us to C, approval of the meeting minutes from our planning commission meeting dated May 27th, 2026. Everybody had a chance to go over those? Anyone notice any changes, corrections? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve as is.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the May 27, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, approval of meeting minutes from our planning commission meeting dated May 27th, 2026 were approved. Okay, that brings us to our public hearing portion of the meeting. We have 4 things on the agenda tonight. We will take each one of them separately. Number 1 is Andy Dvorak and Jen Flynn, 28506 97th Street Northwest. They are seeking a variance for a setback from a public right-of-way. This time I'll turn it over to Mr. Lick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicants are proposing to add on to an existing property at the aforementioned address. The site is on the east shore of Sandy Lake. There are lots similarly sized to the north and south of it and larger rural parcels to the west side of 97th Street. This lot was platted in 1955, and the house that's on it is 960 square feet, which was also built in 1955. So they're proposing a number of options. This is the current site layout showing the existing house and 2 small detached accessory buildings on the south portion of the property. They submitted a number of options to add on and expand the house. The first option would include additions at the northeast, my cursor go, northeast corner of the building, as well as the west side and south elevations, and the addition of a 25 by 30 garage on the northeast corner. With that, the septic system, which is in this area, would be relocated to this portion of the property. The garage would be removed as well as the shed. This option requires consideration of a variance because the proposed garage is within the 50-foot setback of 97th Street. The other 2 options are smaller scale additions to the existing home. Neither of these require variance because they're basically either not encroaching closer to the lake or not impacting any setbacks or encroaching on required yards. The third option is basically the same as the second, except the garage that's existing would be expanded to the side laterally. This building's non-conforming because it is within the 50-foot setback from 97th Street, but because they're not increasing the or decreasing the setback from 97th Street, city staff has considered that not to be a further encroachment requiring variance. So neither option 2 or 3 would require approval of a variance. The property is guided by the comprehensive plan for rural residential uses. Single-family homes are appropriate and reflect the character of the area, which was developed with small cabin lots along the lake shores to take advantage of the recreational opportunities. Those are basically the same lots that exist to the north and the south of the subject site. The comprehensive plan also encourages in-place expansion of these homes to continue their sustainability going forward, subject to compliance with the applicable zoning regulations. Those zoning regulations are set forth in the R1 General Rural District as well as the Shoreland Overlay District specific to riparian lots. The standards for the R1 district in terms of lot area and setbacks are more restrictive than the Shoreland District. The city now requires minimum lots of 2.5 acres with 200 feet of frontage to a public street. The proposed, or the existing lot together is just over 13,000 square feet, so, much smaller than is required. The width is basically 120 feet. So this is really a large suburban lot that would typically be developed with sewer and water utilities to allow for expansion. The depth is also substantially less than required by the zoning ordinance, which is 300 feet, and this is approximately 117 feet. So all these non-conforming conditions conspire to really limit the building envelope that exists for the property in order to make it a viable residential dwelling under contemporary standards. So it is common that the city has approved variances when consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance within the shoreland areas. The main issue here again is the setback requirement from 97th Street. City staff does support this request on the basis that with the new configuration, the proposed garage is set back at least 20 feet from the right-of-way line, so that does provide space to park a vehicle on that pad before entering the garage. Plus, there's the right-of-way between the property line and the street surface for maintenance. If you contrast that with option 3 with the existing garage, which they're proposing could be expanded to the same size, that building already is set back approximately 5 feet from the property line, so there is no space to park in front of it. It limits visibility for any vehicle backing out onto the street and also risks damage from snow being thrown off the road or other materials. So if you're comparing and contrasting the two, even though the proposed option 1 requires variance, it is reasonable because it improves the existing condition of the property by moving the structure further from the right-of-way line and brings the property into greater compliance with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The other issue that we look at within shoreline overlay districts is the amount of impervious surface within the lot. The current proposal, the current situation is 31%. So with the building additions and the removal of the garages or the 2 detached sheds, they're also proposing to remove a number of other impervious surfaces and drop the total impervious surface to 28%. So that not only are they improving the structure, but they're also improving the stormwater situation on the property. As part of the relocation or construction of the garage, they would relocate the septic system to the southern portion of the property. That would all be subject to review by the building official. So city staff has drafted findings of fact for the planning commission to consider supporting approval of the variance based on a reasonable use of the property in consistency with the intent of the zoning ordinance relative to the setback from 97th Street. That recommendation is subject to 4 conditions we outlined in our report.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lake. Okay, at this time, would a representative, or would either one of either Andy or Jen please approach the podium? Give your name and address to Kayla, please.
Sure. My name is Andy Dvorak. I live at 3941 Kipling Avenue in St. Louis Park, Minnesota.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add to what Mr. Lick stated?
No, I think he did a great job reviewing this, and that he was very supportive in the process. So I thank him for that. Thank you guys for listening to us.
Okay. And just one question up front, with your 3 options, usually people come in with just 1, but you came in with 3.
Yes, so the reason we did 3 is our plan is to try to move forward this at the end of this summer season, and we were concerned about timing and having to come back before the panel, and we haven't yet made our final decision on contractors and costing and so on and so forth, so we haven't made a decision on one of the 3 options, so we thought we'd propose the 3 at the same time.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions at this time?
You're referencing a septic system.
Yes.
I mean, is it a tank with a drain field or is it a holding tank?
No, it's actually a very advanced technology. It's basically a mini wastewater treatment system before a drain field, and it's designed to allow for a smaller drain field, and it's typical in these type of applications. My sister has a property next door, and she has the same system. It's been very effective at managing waste, and we like it. It's just located in the wrong position for what we're trying to do on the property. So the idea is to move it to the other side and repurpose portions of it to try to reduce cost in utilization. But it's a great system. It's very advanced as far as treatment systems, and very effective.
What type is it called?
It's called Advantex.
Vantex, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Maybe I missed it, but in option one, in relation to the septic system, where's the well?
So the well sits between the current pump house and the porch or the southern section of the building. And
Because I
so,
see in the current, you list a pump house of 150 square feet. In option one, I don't see it listed at all, the pump house, so.
yeah, the well is not within the pump house. The well is on the, I can point it out if you would like me to.
It's it's right next to the corner of the house. It's on the drawing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So inside the pump house are some of the, there's a holding tank and some mechanical, but it's a self-contained well, so all of the pump itself is inside the well. And as part of the reconstruction, there'd be some reconfiguration and moving some things around, but the pump house would no longer be required.
How deep is the well?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest.
And Dan,
65 feet.
it meets the distance, the well from the,
Mr. Chair, yes, on a preliminary basis, yeah, but the building official will review that.
Yeah, the setback, I think, requirement is, I think, 50 feet. And we walked that out and made sure that the new location of the septic system would meet any requirement there.
So I have a question.
Sure.
It's supposed, if your well is 70 feet or deeper, it would be 50 feet. If it's less than 70, you have to have 100. Are you willing to advance the well if you need to?
That's
To fit?
That's new to me, so we'd have to look at,
Because I had to do it on mine. That's
Okay.
why. Sorry. That's why I know those.
yeah, I mean, if we'd have to look at that as far as an option.
I'm just, I don't think it's limiting. I just think it, if that becomes an issue, if we grant the variance, are you willing to deepen the well if needed?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, Andy, you can have a seat. I'm just going to open it up to the public if anyone has any comments or questions. May call you back up for further questions. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will open it to the public for any comments or questions regarding gentleman's request. Comment? Can you please approach the podium and give your name and address?
I'll try. Is that better?
Yep, if you have your name to Kale and your address, please.
Todd Van Slyke, 28511 97th Street Northwest. We talked to Andy, I just couldn't read the setback on what looks north here. Is that a 10-foot setback? 11, 20, we don't know what the number is, and I don't know if you can see it on your
Mr.
copy.
Chair, it's 7.5 feet. They're not encroaching any closer than the existing structure.
Okay. That's the only thing I couldn't see. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Questions or comments from the public? Questions or comments from the public? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion of this hearing.
Move that we close the public portion.
Second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, public portion of this discussion has been closed. Commissioner Bostock, did you have something?
I just had a question, not specific about this, but since I'm newer. With this, I see a lot of what the city staff has proposed is like dependent on what, like the engineers find or the building officials, find, like we talked about, for like the well. If something were not to be approved, is the process, this jumps back to us, or it just is dismissed, or if something were not be able to be worked out with the building official or the whoever whatever staff is overseeing individual pieces of this.
Mr. Chair. So it's fairly typical that we list conditions such as this to ensure follow-through by city staff after an application is considered and if it's approved. So if, for example, the well doesn't meet setback requirements, then they would have to come back for another variance.
Perfect,
The
thank you.
assumption is, based on the initial review, it will comply. We're just dotting i's and crossing t's.
Perfect, thank you.
We would recommend approval to city council with those 4 conditions when they get to city council. Or they have to be discussed and everything's fine.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any questions for Andy or for Mr. Lick regarding anything at this time? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I actually have a question. If we're looking at the recommendations, item number 4 is talking about the subsurface sewage treatment. Does that include the well situation?
Mr. Chair, that would include the well, because the setback is contingent on the location of the septic, so.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion this time.
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance based on the conditions set forth.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval of the city council based on the 4 conditions be met. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Same sign. Okay, we'll recommend approval of the city council based with those 4 conditions we met. Andy, you will be notified. You'll be on the next city council meeting. Next one, correct? Next week? Okay, next week, 7 o'clock, same time. Okay,
I'm not able to be present for that, but my brother-in-law will be.
okay, perfect. If you have representation, that always helps, so.
Mr. Chair, just to make sure, I mean, we did clarify that it was the 4 criterias, and that is all based on option 1.
Correct, correct.
Make sure. Because we didn't really say that. We just said the conditions, and I guess it would have been better if we'd have said conditions based on option 1. Would have been my thought, but even though, because we had 3 options, so we just wanted to make sure it's clear.
You like to amend your recommendation?
No, it's in the, it's number 1, but.
So, Mr. Chair, it is referenced in the report. Options 2 and 3 are more illustrative because they don't require variances.
Right.
It's just, option 1 is the one that was analyzed for the variance request, so.
Just to make, it, it's just so much clearer, especially when you have numerous options. But no, it's good, Mr. Chair.
I believe it actually says it in number 1,
Yes.
condition number 1.
Okay, that brings us to number 2. Pete Cohen, 14203 285th Avenue Northwest, is seeking a variance to allow construction of new single-family dwelling. This time we'll turn it over to Mr. Lick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cohen is here along with Crystal Lacey, who own the property. This is developed with a 640-square-foot single-family dwelling that was built in 1954. The property is a riparian lot on the west side of Elk Lake, surrounded by similarly sized lots within the plat of Elk Lake Estates, platted about the same time the house was constructed. This is a single-level dwelling, 640 square feet again. They're proposing basically to demolish this home and construct a new 2-story home upon the property, which requires a number of variances. You can kind of see the layout of the proposed home laid on the existing structure, so it's substantially larger. But again, the comprehensive plan guides this property for low-density rural residential uses as part of the lakeshore character of development from the history of Baldwin, taking advantage of that scenic opportunity. The property is likewise zoned R1 General Rural District and within the Shoreland Overlay District, and subject to those additional requirements. The building area for the home, the zoning ordinance requires houses within Baldwin to be a minimum of 720 square feet. The house has a footprint of 1,295 square feet and total floor area of 2,590 square feet, which includes a one-stall attached garage. The height of the building is 22 feet measured to the midpoint of the pitched roof, which is within the 25 feet allowed by the zoning ordinance within the Shoreland Overlay District. Again, because we're dealing with a lot that was established well before anybody had conceived of zoning standards, much less shoreland requirements, it is much smaller than the 2.5 acres required by the zoning ordinance. In fact, it's just over 1/10 of an acre and not 200 feet wide or 300 feet deep, but 50 feet wide and 105 feet deep. So if you want to think of it in context, this is a Minneapolis, city of Minneapolis-sized urban lot. So that obviously creates challenges for trying to put a new home upon the property in compliance with the setback requirements. So we have encroachments into the 75-foot setback from the ordinary high water level, encroachments into the 10-foot side yard setback, and an encroachment into the 50-foot setback from the public right-of-way. Again, with the similar to the prior application, they are proposing to maintain a 20-foot setback from the right-of-way, sufficient to allow for parking of a vehicle on an apron in front of the garage for access and maintenance purposes. That is something that anytime one of these applications come forward, city staff indicates as a minimum. Regarding the shoreland setback on the opposite side of the lot, the zoning ordinance does have flexibility to draw a line between the existing structures on either side of the property and allow a building closer than the 75 feet. That would apply in this case, but this building still encroaches within that setback as well at almost 47 feet back from the lot line, which is comparable to the home to the west. If you look beyond just the two homes on either side of the property within the plat of Elk Lake Estates, there are a number of homes that are as close as 30 feet to the lot line. So there is precedence for reducing that front yard setback, and the city has approved that in the past for variances, recognizing the need because of the lack of depth in this lot that you're trying to balance the setback between the street and the shoreline between the intent of both regulations. So city staff views that what they've accomplished with the setback here is reasonable. Also, when we get to talking about the utilities, there is a setback issue with regards to the proposed septic tank, which would be used on an interim basis as a holding tank until the property to the west relocates their substandard well. That setback requirement, the building official would prefer to see that met between the tank and the home. And so there is the opportunity to move the house slightly forward towards the lake, still much less than 30 feet from the lake, but maintaining that setback on the opposite side from the holding tank. Impervious surface is currently at about 13% of the lot area with the new home, and changes to the site itself would increase to 28.2%. They are making an effort to offset that additional 3% through the use of permeable pavers for the driveway. The zoning ordinance doesn't acknowledge that as a reduction in impervious surface because these types of materials require long-term maintenance that the city would have a difficult time administering and overseeing. But it is a reasonable offset to the additional impervious surface. And again, the need to go to 28% is based on the fact that the lot is so substantially smaller than would be required by the zoning ordinance, either in the R1 district or even the standards for the Shoreland Overlay District. So at 28%, city staff believes that's a reasonable allowance. The other setback, again, that I skipped over was the side yard setback. This is an issue that the Planning Commission has recently discussed at length. 10 feet's required. They're showing 7 feet on each side. Again, if you consider this as a typical city of Minneapolis size lot, 7 feet is more than reasonable to allow it uninterrupted drainage. Obviously, it somewhat limits access from the front to the back of the house, but there just isn't much flexibility with a lot this wide to be able to accommodate a reasonable size home within those 10-foot setbacks. So again, this is an issue the Planning Commission, I expect, will have some discussion on. There is some grading work occurring with the site to construct the new home, which would be reviewed by the building official, or excuse me, city engineer as part of their review of the building permit. I touched briefly on the septic issue. They do have their septic designer here who can explain this further, but The drain field would be proposed to be between the holding tank and the right-of-way line, but it can't be installed at this point because of a well on the adjacent property. That's a substandard shallow well and a substandard septic system that will need to be replaced either if a building permit is ever issued for that property or the property is sold. And so we can trigger then the installation of a drain field with this. On an interim basis, the city has allowed holding tanks for these substandard lots because of a lack of area to accommodate septic system within required setbacks. So again, that's a reasonable flexibility given the characteristics of this property. City staff drafted findings of fact supporting approval of the variance for consideration by the Planning Commission. We also outlined as part of the conditions of approval, the specific variances being requested, and the total number of conditions was 5 as outlined in the planning report.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lake. Okay, at this time, if Peter is here or a representative of the party, approach the podium and give your name to Kayla, if you would, and name and address.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Shane Steinbrecher, septic designer, 13792 247th Avenue, Zimmerman. I represent Pete and Chris, and any questions regarding to the septic that you'd have.
Does anyone have any questions at this time?
It's hard to tell from this, but it has room to fit between the tank and the right-of-way?
Yes, so we're proposing,
Right-of-way?
yep, so what we're proposing to do is put the drain field to the north, right on the property line, and then to the west, the setback on that, Mr. Lick, we have is 5 feet on that. So what we would propose to do is to put the holding tank in now. It would be set up for a pre-treatment system. And then, like you stated, when the property to the east at some point transfers, the shallow well would have to be dealt with at that time. And we would propose to be able to work with the installer to have a 50-foot setback from that to the drain field. Then that would allow, once that's in place, it would be compliant and would allow the permit to come in for the drain field and be completed.
There isn't a setback from the right-of-way for the drain field?
There
Just
is,
the
that's it.
adjacent property line, or?
Mr. Chair, there is a setback from the right-of-way, 10 feet. But again, the city has approved these. The city's actually approved variances to allow septic drain fields in the right-of-way on lots such as this because of the lack of space.
Is that part of this, or?
Yes,
would
it
that
is.
be- Okay. I thought I was right, but I just verifying. Cool.
Questions at this time for Shane? Thank you very much, Shane. This time I will open this portion of the meeting to the public for any comments or questions regarding this variance request. Comments or questions from anyone? Questions from anyone? I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion hearing of this discussion.
I'll make that motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, public portion of this discussion has been closed. Okay, comments, questions from regarding this?
Mr. Chair, it just seems like we're trying to fit so much into this. It's obviously a very small lot, 49 by 105. You know, but what concerns me is, number one, is, going with strictly a holding tank, and I know Shane and I know what he does, and I trust his ideas of what they're doing, but it's an unknown as to when that lot next door could get sold. I mean, it could be tomorrow, and it could be many tomorrows from, tomorrow, and it could be a long time, and that concerns me that, you're just using a holding tank. But it may not concern other members of the commission, but it concerns me that with that big unknown about when the drain field could be, everything could be remedied to be a good system.
Say your concern, is it, what is your concern other than the time frame when it would happen, or is your actual concern with a holding tank being on the property?
I'm concerned about having a holding tank, period. And not without, without a, the full system. We don't allow holding tanks generally. So that's,
I agree with him as far as the holding tank. My concern is that there's no set timetable. That it's, at this point, we're waiting for the property to be sold, or we're waiting. It happens on someone else's time. There's nothing saying that we're gonna meet this at any given time. So my concern is yes, it's a holding tank, but there's no true timetable to get it completed.
normally you'd have, Mr. Chair, normally you'd have a condition that within 5 years, within 2 years, you would have this remedied or something like that. This is just the unknown, I guess, is what concerns me.
Mr. Chair. So the planning commission could consider adding a condition that A, requires a management plan that would include regular pumping and reporting of that to the building official. Second, it would be required anyway, I believe, but an alarm for if the level reaches a point where it requires pumping, that it's not only an internal alarm, but an exterior light, so that it would be informing the public that there's an issue there and can follow up on it. So that would address some of the concerns from a maintenance standpoint of having this in place for an extended period of time, not necessarily putting a deadline on it, but
Mr. Chair, how big of a holding tank are they proposing, Dan?
I'd ask Mr. Steinbrecher, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, so we're proposing a 2,250 gallon holding tank. So based on a 2-bedroom and based on water use that would be there, we would typically see a facility like this could go 45 to 60 days pretty easy, depending on use. And again, that depends on, many factors, right? How they manage and take care of their water. One thing to keep in mind is to just go a little broader on this. So when we look at the Department of Health, they oversee well management. Well management and variances with wells has always been a complicated process. About 10 years ago, we started proposing, when we're bringing in pretreatment systems, that we don't have to meet the 100-foot setback because we're pretreating this wastewater to just shy of a drinking water standard. We have 180 of these systems residentially throughout the state. You just heard the previous person that came forward. That is a system that we maintain, monitor, and sample, right? So for the first time in 5 years, we actually have the Department of Health looking at this and going, we may be able to start granting variances to a pretreatment system because of the quality of effluent it puts subsurface. They haven't done that yet, but that came to light about the last 30 days. So depending on how those conversations go, I'm confident if they're willing to look at this, the client would move forward and go for a variance with the Department of Health for a setback to that well. Again, we're kind of in uncharted waters. We've been working well over 10 years with them, and as you know, it takes a lot to move the pendulum. But, I don't have to explain that to you guys. So I just want you to be aware that that's something we're looking at. This is what's in front of us. As you know, I was here a year ago dealing with the same thing on the east side of Elk Lake. We deal with 20 of these a year right now, right? We can't make the setbacks, and what do you do when it's an adjacent property with a shallow well? To your point, when will it turn over? That's a valid point. Could be 3 days, 3 months, 10 years, right? We don't know. So just know that we're looking at that too, because honestly, after this one, we'll be here 5 more times in front of you guys before the end of the year. So we're trying to address that as well, so.
That answered my 2 questions. One comment was, time is something that's, like you said, it's given, we don't know. The other one was, I was just gonna say, if there's anything you can say to help Commissioner West with his concern of a holding tank. Is there any reason for a concern if we do what Mr. Lick stated and we have something incorporated where it's pumped, it's reported, where then it's just basically peace of mind for everybody? If that's possible to add to this, is there anything else that you could add if we did that? Is there any reason he should be concerned if we did that?
No, I mean, the client has already signed a management plan which aligns and states that out. Should you choose to want an exterior alarm, we can certainly do that. That's not a big deal. We can put that condition in there. But they already have that, and that can be done and reported, I think, semi-annual or annually, up to you guys. We can put that either way. I mean, we have multiple ones that do that as well already. So happy to do that and put those conditions on there.
Yep, that would take care of it.
Okay, any more discussion regarding this? Comments, questions? Go
I
ahead.
have a question from Mr. Licht. We can't, due to the size of the properties, we can't say no because I know we don't prefer holding tanks and it's something to shy away from if possible, but we can't necessarily legally say no because some of these properties cannot fit a septic system and be reasonably used as a property. Is that correct?
So, Mr. Chair, the criteria is the property owner has right to reasonable use of the property. As Commissioner West stated, this house is much larger than what is there today. Could you make a smaller house that then meets setback requirements, including for the septic system? Potentially, that's not what's being presented. So the question before the Planning Commission is, does this reasonably balance the intent of the zoning ordinance and building ordinance for these setbacks? Is the use of the holding tank reasonable in consideration of that use of property and surrounding conditions?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could, just to clarify on that, members of the board, so with that current well setback of 100 feet, no drain field can be put on this property. Okay? It will not meet the well setbacks, shoreland setbacks, or the rest of it. So currently with a shallow well, even if there was no house there and we needed to put a drain field on it, we could not. I just wanted to clarify that, you know,
Where I
a
was
whole.
going with it is-
Yeah, exactly. And a holding tank is a type 2. The state does classify them, county allows them, and that as well. And to the point of showing hardship, I think we can show the hardship because even with no dwelling on there, we cannot put a drain field currently.
Chair, under that circumstance, even the change of ownership on the property, which would trigger a new septic system likely to be installed, they can't install the drain system. So even if they were proposing to reuse the existing structure, they would still be here asking for this variance.
But I drove by, the existing structure's not in very good shape, so. I'm, as a neighbor, I like the idea of a new structure. Whether it has to be the size or not, that's up for discussion, but I'm
Okay, so
happy
let's
for
fill
a
that
new
out.
structure.
How does everybody feel about it? Comment? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, as always, I have an issue with the side setback. Looking at 7 feet on both sides. Setback is 10 feet. My concern is access, safety access around and behind the building. Making sure that that's a standard that we try to maintain. I have a problem with the 7-foot sides.
How does everybody else feel about that?
I'm not in disagreement, other than the fact that, as Mr. Lick posted or mentioned, you know, standard city setbacks within cities. I mean, I know there are lots that have 5-foot setbacks, so that the houses are 10 feet apart total. So I get where you're coming from, and I get, we want to be residential, so I love the idea of trying to maintain the 10-foot. Can I go back and forth on this one? I get the 7.5, but I see both sides on that one, so I'm just clarifying. I've seen smaller.
I think the fact that it's a new build, possibility to remove that 7 feet and go to 10. Please give your name and.
Yep, my name is Christy Lacy, and I'm here with Pete. And we live at 236 Howard Avenue South in Amory, Wisconsin. So we too approached this property thinking it could be restored. That was our first thought as an option. And the more we looked into that, the more we realized that wasn't a viable option. So then we went to a renovation with maybe an addition of some kind. And it didn't take long to realize that that was not necessarily the best option. So then we went to a design team and regarding the septic, and we looked at what would make sense here. So the first thing that we did is we said, we definitely should have a one-stall garage because that will help the public regarding parking. At least there'll be room for at least 1 or 2 vehicles there. Then we said, we definitely needed to consider 2 bathrooms. 1 bathroom, living in a place where there's just 1 bathroom can create its own problems, right? And we said, okay, now if we've got a garage and we've got 2 bathrooms, what do we do with the rest of it? That's when we realized that we probably had to go to 2 stories. We didn't really want to go to 2 stories. We kind of wanted that 1-story living, but the more we looked at it, the more we said we'd have to go to 2 stories. Then the design team took into consideration that the stairs could go up in the front there, and that by the stairs, we could squeeze in the mechanical, so that all of the mechanical stuff is kind of on that one side of the house, with the bathrooms on that side, the kitchen is on that side. And then lastly, we were looking at the entryway and the living space on that first floor, making sure that it was handicap friendly. Just given some situations, we were trying to keep the entryway wide enough so that it would be accessible for handicapped people. So that's how we ended up looking at a couple of different alternatives. We looked at something wider and like less to the lake. We looked at something narrower and more, but this is the one that seemed to work the best without shrinking that entryway to a level that it makes it crowded. Any other comments?
Comments or questions for?
On that note, just for curiosity's sake, so currently your entryway is 8.5 feet.
Yep.
I know handicap, it doesn't I mean, ADA accessible, I totally understand that completely. I mean, I know we're currently you're looking at 7 feet on both sides.
Right.
Would it be possible to meet halfway and go 10 on one side and keep the 7 on the other side and lose 1.5 feet out of? You'd still meet ADA compliance because you'd be at 7 feet.
Yeah, you would lose 3 feet.
Oh, to get to the 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we looked at, okay, what would happen if we, and there's a lot of other areas where it's 7 feet on each side, so that's kind of why we landed there. Then we said, if it went to 8, you're losing 2 feet of that, and now you're down to 6 in that entryway, the most common entryway into the house. So 7, from a design standpoint, and from a use standpoint, a reasonable use standpoint, it made sense to keep it wide enough so that that had a free flow through there. Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, commission. Comments, questions, entertain a motion. Where's everybody at? Seems like the septic concerns were taken care of, for the most part. Have the 7-foot setback concern, with 10 being the norm.
Can I ask one more question for Mr. Licht? The one right down the street from this, 14223, was recently rebuilt and is 2 stories and seems exceptionally giant for the lot that it's on. Do we know where that is in comparison to this? Do you remember? I know I'm throwing it at you on a spot. I'm sorry. I was just
Share,
curious.
discuss amongst yourselves, I will.
I just, my reason being is, I get that this is big, but I don't know, I don't know if it's necessarily out of character. So many of the lots, you know, we've got the smaller houses, but there have been the bigger houses going in, so I don't know as if this is, I was curious if it was significantly bigger than that one, or if size-wise it's comparable. And how did that one fit on the lot? Because it's tight. That one I went, what are they doing?
Typically, the 10 feet we don't vary from, it's the high water in the road coming this way. Sometimes the house is existing is already out of the way it was built. Like, we already need a variance anytime we're gonna do something that, but when you say, here's our existing house, and now we're gonna put this in, that's, because that's.
I know the 14223 meets the 10 foot on the one side because the driveway is down the side.
Okay.
So, but I don't know what the setback is on its opposite side from the driveway. I'm flipping my east and it should be the east side.
Here, this was a variance on Sandy Lake. It's almost 6 feet on one side and 11 on the other. Still looking for the one that Mr. Barnes recommended.
And again, maybe I'm off in that it needed a variance. Maybe it did fit. It just seems like a giant
Address,
house compared to that lot.
Mr. Chair, what was the address?
It's so this, yeah, 14, so it's 223. I'm almost positive it was a complete tear down and rebuild. I know it was a 1-story and went to a 2-story.
Okay, keep talking.
Like I say, maybe it didn't need a variance. I'm just trying,
Depending where it was
comparative
at.
wise.
If it was a complete tear down is one thing, but yeah, if it was a remodel and they were already at 5 or 7. they're just
And maybe
simply
that's what it
going
was, is they
Yeah.
kept part of it and they added to it. Maybe it was an addition versus a tear down and didn't need the, because like I say, their driveway goes the one side to their, which would address Commissioner Stoffren's concern, is they can get to the far side, down that side. Which is why I was wondering if we could get the 10-foot on one side.
Yeah, I mean.
And
10
go to
foot on one
7
side
on
would
the
be-
other side, but if that's at all. I'm just,
7 on both sides is.
I mean, it's not wrong that that's, like I say, there's some in the cities that are 5 feet on both sides. But we're not the cities, so, I,
apples to apples we're trying to stick with, so yeah, the city.
yep,
would be-
we're not the cities.
Mr. Chair, we don't have a setback or variance that was issued for 1423, or 223 285th Avenue.
Okay, so maybe they fit.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to drive out to look at this property.
Okay.
I'm assuming there are 2 properties, 2 residents on both sides of the, do you know what the setbacks are on those? I mean, to their structures?
One has a shed right on the property line.
Okay, well, that's,
This one's 9.2.
so it wouldn't be
That's 9.2.
it wouldn't be a permanent structure because it's a shed.
You couldn't spill over into the neighbor's side because that shed is there, creating a hard barrier for that 7
Okay.
feet.
Mr. Chair, to the west, the house is 7 feet at its closest. On the north side, or on the east side, it's 10 feet.
So you'll have 14 feet between. Correct? I did my
I
math.
believe the owner of the one on the north side is also looking at doing some remodeling, so. I don't know if that's changing the actual structure, but he's looking at updating it. Not that that matters.
Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance as listed with the conditions set forth by city staff, the 5 conditions as set forth.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Any more discussion?
We going to amend any of the conditions for some of the criteria on the holding tank?
Mr. Chair, that would be amending condition 5 to A, require a management plan for maintenance, including pumping with annual reporting. B, installation of an exterior alarm, level alarm. Yes.
So I would amend my motion to match what Planner Licht just stated, to add the monitoring program requirement.
Do I amend my second?
You're fine with the second?
Yeah. My second?
Okay, any more discussion? Stoffren? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Yours, Commissioner West? I mean, Commissioner Larson, what was yours? Okay. 3-3. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Commissioner West was a nay vote?
Nay.
Okay, very good.
3-3. So once again, this does get passed on to the city council without our approval, but also it was a tie, so it will be on the agenda in 1 week, 7 o'clock, same place, same time.
Residents within the city.
Pardon me?
Other residents within the city are 7.
Mr. Chair? Yes, there are. The condition is those are non-conforming. They're allowed to continue as is, but if, as an example here, you take down that existing non-conforming house, any new structure has to comply with the requirements. So the final decision will be made by the city council.
Thank you very much.
Can I have a question? Is there a prediction as to the city council saying on some precedents?
No, we just, our liaison for the city council is the mayor, Mr. Swanson. Basically, he hears this. You'll present the same argument or whatever you present in 1 week. He'll say this was the discussion, this is a public hearing, so everybody on the city council can watch this video, see what was discussed, and then we'll present that time and they'll come to a decision. Fortunately, right now, we are down 1. We do have an odd number, so it would be 4-3, one way or the other, but 6 people tonight, it ends up being a tie, so. But it still does go to city council, and that's your whole plan, is that's what you want, is the city council to hear your proposal. Next week, you are on. Thank you very much. And thank you, Shane, for clarifying everything for us. Okay, that ends number 2, D2. That brings us to 3. Vertical Bridge, 28059, 128th Street Northwest, seeking a conditional use permit for a new telecommunications tower. This time I'll turn over to Mr. Licht.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Vertical Bridge, the Towers LLC is here on behalf of Verizon with plans to construct a 175-foot tall telecommunications tower that would include 1 set of antennas at the very top, opportunity for 2 additional installations on the tower, and then related ground equipment. The property is 7¼ acres located at the southeast corner of County Road 45 and 281st Street Avenue, excuse me. This does require a conditional use permit subject to review by the Planning Commission and approval of the City Council. As a means of introduction, I want to emphasize that the federal government in 1994 passed a law, the Telecommunications Act, that essentially regards cellular communications as an essential service. So it, through that act, limits the ability of the city to review these applications. Basically, the intent of the federal government was to preempt any zoning authority from prohibiting installation of these facilities for anything other than land use-based regulations. So the purview of the Planning Commission with regards to this application is zoning standards related to the location of the antenna, its height, its screening, and any security measures. With an interim use, or excuse me, conditional use permit, the city has very defined standards as to what the applicant needs to demonstrate that they comply with. If the applicant complies with those requirements, then the expectation is that the request is approved. With the added jurisdiction or oversight of the federal government in this area, it's very important that the city focus solely on those land use regulations. This Planning Commission does not consider concerns regarding radio wave impacts, radiation, interference with electronic devices, et cetera, as part of your review. That is essentially handled by the federal government through the Federal Communications Commission and not subject to any oversight by the city. So with that, the comprehensive plan does guide this property for rural land uses. Again, telecommunications are regarded as an essential service allowed within these areas to support both traffic and users from the region as well as local users of cellular phones. So allowance of these within the city is considered consistent with the comprehensive plan from a land use development standpoint. The property is zoned R1 General Rural District. This district does allow for telecommunications towers, again, by approval of a conditional use permit. The maximum height for any telecommunications tower is 175 feet. The property is developed with a single-family home. That's the on the north side of the property with access off of County Road 45. There are surrounding similarly sized large rural residential parcels in all directions from the property. There also is Caitlin Lake to the east of the site. The proposed tower location appears to be outside of the 1,000-foot setback for application of shoreland overlay district standards, but we did ask that that be indicated on the site plan for verification purposes. The main criteria that the city does look at as part of the analysis as to whether the proposed tower is a necessary facility is that the applicant's required to provide a coverage analysis indicating existing towers in the area and their service locations and capability, basically indicating whether there is adequate service for the area. This is the existing services in the area with the areas shown in yellow and orange as being less than sufficient services. So this indicates a need from a provider standpoint for placement of antennas within the city or at this location. The first option being that they would locate those antennas on an existing structure. This shows that there aren't towers within proximity to the site necessary to address that. So then they provide the coverage analysis for services once the tower is installed with the new antennas, indicating that the service gap is closed and that necessary services are being provided. Again, the maximum height of the tower is 175 feet. This basically is a standard defined by the city. This standard was established under the Sherburne County zoning ordinance, adopted by Baldwin Township and now through the city. Establishing the maximum height for the tower is basically a trade-off between you can allow a taller tower and likely have fewer of them, or you can go lower and have more of them in order to cover the same service area. So Sherburne County, when they established their regulations, defined 175 feet as appropriate for areas planned for rural land uses. The antennas that would be installed are the facilities at the very top. And then as required by the zoning ordinance, there are the ability to co-locate other providers on the same structure, again with the intent of minimizing the number of towers that would be required within the city. The site plan for the antenna shows that it's being installed in the southern portion of the property. There is a 195-foot setback required from all perimeter lot lines or adjacent residential uses. Based on the Sherburne County GIS system, the closest home to this tower is approximately 400 feet to the east. So the tower does meet all setback requirements, and it is obviously well outside the setback required from adjacent residential dwellings. In our report, we had noted the tower is required to be in the rear yard of the property, which is defined as being behind the front line of the single-family dwelling. However, when we looked at the site plan, this doesn't identify this necessarily as being a separate parcel from the County 45 right-of-way. This is owned by Sherburne County. So our analysis regarded this as the front lot line, which would put this in the side yard relative to the house. However, the shortest lot line, because this is not right-of-way, it's a separate parcel. The shortest lot line, and therefore the front, is to the north, making this in the rear yard, so it does comply with that provision of the zoning ordinance as well. Other requirements that are addressed through the application, it is required to be screened at the ground level. There are existing trees within the area of the tower that provide some additional screening, but we did recommend that the spacing of the evergreen trees at the base be increased so that it's basically a continuous screen, and that those trees be increased to 8 feet in height so that they fully screen the enclosed area from installation. I don't believe you can necessarily see on the site plan, but the area is enclosed by a chain link fence that's 6 feet in height with a 1 foot barbed wire arm for security purposes. That's also required by the zoning ordinance to limit access to the facility. The tower itself, being a monopole design, doesn't have climbing equipment on it, so it's considered anti-climb proof for security reasons as well. The city engineer did review the grading plan for the property. There is a wetland within the property itself, and so the city engineer did recommend that the silt fencing that's to be installed should be a double line of that to ensure protection of that during construction and stabilization of the site. Other than the requirements that I've outlined, there are some additional provisions that the provider will address, including provision of a certificate of insurance, protecting for property damage or liability. They're also required to obtain a building permit from the building official to construct the facility, which would be sought after consideration of the conditional use permit and potential approval by the city council. The other requirement that's included in the zoning ordinance is that if any of the equipment is abandoned or unused for a period of 12 months, it must be removed from the property so that you don't have any unused facilities, basically, and the potential for risks to public health, safety, and welfare from that standpoint. So city staff's review of the application is that the criteria for approval of the conditional use permit have been met. They've demonstrated the need for the service in the area, that it can't be provided on an existing facility, and that it is necessary to continue service for Verizon Wireless. So city staff provided findings of fact to recommend approval of the conditional use permit to the city council, subject to 10 conditions outlined in our report.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Licht. Okay, is there a representative from the party here? Please give your name and address to Kayla.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. My name is Alex Truman. I'm representing Vertical Bridge. I live at 4340 Stinson Boulevard in Columbia Heights.
What was your first name again?
Alex Truman.
Okay, is there anything you would like to add or say?
Yeah, Dan was very detailed in this. I appreciate that, very thorough in the summary of it. This project is really being driven by the demands, the network demands of the residents yourself. We've been seeing an exponential growth in data usage network-wide, just due to the increases in usage, work from home, school from home, those sort of things. And so the capacity has really been an issue for the network, with the people that are living closer to the existing sites. Using a lot of that capacity and not being able to reach as far as it used to do. So this is really intended to be able to provide the coverage and capacity that everyone really relies on in daily life. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions for him at this time? Okay, at this time, I'll have to take a seat and I'll open it up to the public. Okay, at this time, I will open up to the public for any comments or questions they may have. If you do, please give your name and address to Kayla. Any questions would be addressed to the board. Later, we will address them with Alex. There also is, and I apologize for not earlier, but when we have public portion of the meeting, we try to limit each person to 3 minutes in case there's a large turnout. We don't want the meeting to go too long. So if you do want to approach, if you keep it to 3 minutes or less, we would appreciate that. So this time, if anyone has any questions or comments, please approach the podium. Address to Kayla.
My name is Alex Cook. I live on 12633 280th Avenue. And my biggest concern about this is how's this going to affect the property values around it and adjacent to it? And is there going to be a fence the entire road? And is there any, what are they going to do about the animals and all the wildlife that are back there? That's what I'm curious about.
Okay. Okay, if you have no other questions, if you would sit down, we'll call. Okay, thank you very much, Alex. Approach the podium, if you could answer those questions for him.
So can you just clarify, what was the first question about the fence?
What will do the property values?
Yeah, so.
That's pretty much Mr. Lake's.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, allow me to answer that, please. So the Planning Commission doesn't consider impacts to property values. That's a very inexact science. Even if you're qualified as an appraiser, you're going to find two appraisers that can come to a different opinion. From the standpoint, you have to consider that this is an allowed use of the property, subject to compliance with these conditions. So in evaluating and determining a property value, someone has to assume that there's always the potential that this could develop on any property within this zoning district. So that's the reason the city does not consider property value impacts as part of its deliberations.
Regarding the fencing, how much fence will there be?
The fencing will just be around the compound itself. Correct, where the equipment and the tower will be inside.
What's the approximate size of that again?
That is.
Mr. Chair, it's 70 feet by 70 feet, so it's just confined to this small area right here.
Correct.
Okay,
Trees on the outside of that, right?
Correct, and trees at the perimeter of the fence plus the balance of the property. So you can see this is a 195 feet distance to property lines shown in red. So there's much open space around the tower installation as exists on the property today.
okay,
The extent of the area being enclosed is smaller than an accessory building that would be allowed on the property.
okay, thank you.
He did talk about
Animals.
the animals in the area too. That was a concern.
That was the last question.
Yeah, okay. I mean, he just stated that it's no bigger than an outbuilding, so that if you put someone put an outbuilding, so I guess asking him that, you can, I mean, it's 70 by 70, right?
Yeah, and wildlife impact is heavily regulated at the federal level as well. We complete a NEPA analysis that takes into consideration everything from migratory bird paths to nesting seasons to bats, red-headed woodpeckers. That's all a part of the requirements that are put upon us at a federal level.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Name and address to Kayla?
Tim Derrick, 28145 128th Street, Zimmerman. I'll try to keep it to 5 minutes. Is that okay?
We prefer 3 minutes if you.
I'll go as fast as I can. So I'd like to address the planning company and their assessment, and then provide some additional facts. What the zoning ordinance allows is up to 175 feet. With apparatus, this is proposed a tower up to 185 feet. States that the closest adjacent dwelling is over 400 feet to the east. What it doesn't state is what are the recommended health limits. And now, this property owner is now restricting from building closer to their property line. Plus, there's a vacant lot to the south of this that now is creating restrictions for that vacant lot to be sold. The yard location states that it doesn't meet the zoning requirements and proposes to move the tower even closer to the east property. Screening requires the plants to be guaranteed for 12 months. Anyone familiar, this area, drought prone, sand that we have, takes at least 3 years for trees to establish roots. Especially an 8-foot evergreen. I know this because I've replaced a lot of them. Because of the close proximity, it will interfere with digital signal. 4 and 5G operate on the same frequency. We'll no longer have local news, local weather. I'll have to purchase a streaming service. No residents want the close-up view of a tower. That is probably why the ordinance indicates locating the tower in the rear yard. This is flawed, because by doing that, now you're locating it in the front view of other adjacent properties. Verizon is a $195 billion company. All they're trying to do is get off cheap. There's other wide open acreage, less than a half mile away, both to the north and the south, that is more conducive to a tower antenna versus cramming it in a small parcel neighborhood. If you vote to approve this, you're voting for a money grab of a $195 billion company and against tax-paying residents of this neighborhood that lived here and raised families for decades. I have more, but do you have any questions for me so far?
Wait till the end to address them? Yeah, we'll wait till the end.
Also, if you allow Vertical Bridge back up for comments, I would appreciate that you at least allow your residents to have the same courtesy after closing public comments.
Lastly, the city specifically prohibits this. It says all freestanding antenna towers and accessory structures located within a residential plat, residential area as defined in section XX2-2 of this ordinance. And under that, it says, shall include all platted land and land that which has been legally subdivided into tracts less than 10 acres for the purpose of the residential use, where there are 24 homes or more within a quarter mile of the radius of the proposed tower site. Why isn't this in your assessment? It doesn't meet the city ordinance. And I'm a little disappointed coming in here, and Mr. Lick not having his assessment what the FFA requirements are, or not, excuse me, the federal requirements. Right away, you when you were mentioning this, you said basically you don't have a choice, it's approved. So do you have any questions about the city ordinances? You prohibit it. States right in your ordinances. There's more than 24 homes.
You know how many?
I counted 29. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kirsty Cantor. I live at 12623 280th. Kirsty Cantor. I'm the property right on that corner, which means I'm within the ground zero of all of the high level amounts of electromagnetic frequencies. They're going to be directly at me all day long while I'm at my home. So I disapprove of this on levels that you guys couldn't even imagine. My family has lived at that home for over 50 years, and everything he just had to say was right on the money. Like, this is the last thing we want in our area. Is every day I'm out blacksmithing is this stuff staring me down. Tons of electromagnetic frequency directly aimed at my home. At our animals. We have horses and stuff at that spot. So I'm totally against it. I can't see why anybody would be okay with this idea. There's people, over 80% of the homes next to this have children in them. So I hope that you guys actually can, I don't know, do something and make this not a thing. Because I just can't even fathom it.
Hi, I'm David Durrell, and I own the property on both sides of where that cell tower is gonna go. And I am totally against it.
North, south, or east, west? You say on both sides?
I own the property behind his place and on the side of his place. And I don't see where it's good for the environment, why we even need it. I got great cell phone coverage at my place, but I didn't have when I had Verizon, but I got T-Mobile and it works just fine. So I see no reason for it. I don't want my property devalued by somebody putting a tower up right there. That's it.
Dave Cowles, 12710 281st Avenue, Zimmerman. Live just to the north of that property, right across the street. One question is, how far will this cell tower improve? I mean, what's the radius of the coverage? And when I did a search on antennasearch.com, it's showing there's 6 towers within 2.7 miles of this house already. So is there a way they can piggyback off one of those towers instead of putting a new tower up? Also, do some research that they haven't proven, studies on the magnetic waves and stuff, but Verizon and their K10 form in 2022 says they're one of their biggest risks for financial making money in 2023 was litigations on cell towers and cell phones for what was it actually said on here? For businesses facing personal injury and wrongful death lawsuits related to alleged health effects for radio frequency transmitters was one of their biggest risk factors for making a profit in 2023. So they do have concerns on them. Putting them in a residential area, probably not the best place for it.
Jan Takata, 28187 125th Street Northwest. My only question is, does that property owner have a choice? And are they getting any monetary benefits?
My name is Patricia Boudreau, and I live at 27833 128th Street Northwest, right on County Road 45. This has become quite the shock to the neighborhood. People don't really want it there for good reasons, and there are more young people moving in those areas now with children that can be very much affected by this. And as well, us older seniors that are still there, that doesn't help us any more than the pollution and all the other things. These things are effective. They injure your brain, they injure your body, they injure your soul. And you have to consider the fact you don't need to put them in a neighborhood. There's plenty of land in either direction that it could go up with not being that close to human life. And you have to consider it. I mean, you worry about the trees and you say the deer and all that, that's fine. Think about the people that are there. Think about who we live in that area. Our children run around, they play in each other's yards, and we're just feet away from that tower. And that does make an effect. Would you want one in your backyard? Probably not, because they're sightly. Yes, they would be useful, but will you take the risk? It's kind of like, I'm gonna ride my bike to work every day compared to taking my car. Well, am I taking a bigger risk? Probably. So why would I put a tower in where all my neighbors are living? And yes, people do get reimbursed for putting those in their yards, because about 10 years ago, I was required to put one in mine because I had an open field. They insure you, they pay you and everything else, so the money matter is important to the person putting it up, because they're going to get a sum for that. So pretending they don't isn't going to be the factor. All we do as a community is say, this is our plot, this is where we live, this is where we survive, grow our family for 50, 60 years. Now all of a sudden, somebody just decides, well, you need a tower in your neighborhood. Well, if we don't want it, why do we have it? It should go to a neighborhood that wants it, or go to an open field. You live out here, you drive around, you can see there's plenty of open land. It could be at least much further away from any harm to any person. Because about 10, 20 years from now, you'll be hearing about how much these things have affected us. And there will be no recourse for us to. It's like having, your water tainted, and you have to drink it for years before someone says, well, we'll fix that now. You can't fix when somebody's either dead, hurt, or infirmed. So we wish all of you would really consider this very carefully. Because once you put that in there, you're gonna have very much disgruntled people. And they're gonna be on your backs every meeting to let you know it. Even if it doesn't do any good, it's gonna be something that's gonna cause a problem. Thank you for listening.
My name's Elizabeth Cantor. I live at 12633 280th Avenue. I mean, if these towers don't supposedly cause any problems to people, why don't they put one up like next to the hospital or next to a fire station? You know, they seem to find places out in the middle of nowhere to put these things. And we've done a lot of reading on radiation with this, migration of animals causing, you know, problems with that. Monarch butterfly, for one. I watch nature all the time, and I've seen a lot of different changes, even just a little bit now. I don't own a cell phone, but everybody around me does. We seem to have perfect, you know, communications or whatever you guys want to call it. I don't think having another tower is going to do anything more. I'm totally against this. I've lived here my whole life, almost my whole life. And yeah, I just think it's BS. Put one next to the hospital if you're not scared with what it actually does to people. Thank you.
Comments, questions?
My name is John Clover, 28213 128th Avenue, Northwest Zimmerman. Dan laid it out quite a bit, answered a lot of my questions, but some of the simple ones, I mean, my first question is, I'm 2 driveways down. Why didn't I get something in the mail? My neighbor, Tim, got something in the mail.
I didn't know until Monday.
How can they get away with not mailing me something about this meeting and what's going on? That's a surprise to me. I would think that would be required. My other question is, the owner of the property, are they here? I would have a few questions for them. What is the benefit to the owner of the property? Also, you know, we'll look more into the details on what, you know, needs to happen. Tim's done a lot of research. I appreciate that, Tim. And then also, it looks like, you know, as a community, we can hire a municipal land use attorney to basically audit the carrier's application for technical errors. And we will do that. We'll get together as a community and we will do that. So they might want to make sure they got everything right. I think that's probably all I really have to say.
As far as the owner, obviously, we have no idea what. As far as not being notified, there's always something that's sent out. Why you didn't get yours? The
Mr.
radius?
Chair?
Yes.
The radius is 350 feet for notice from the surrounding properties, so we use the Sherburne County GIS system to generate the mailing list, and then city staff uses US Post Office to send those.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Questions or comments at this time?
I did have one more. I believe Mr. Wick mentioned that you can't judge what property value will drop, but off of the National Association of Realtors property, they'll say it'll drop anywhere from 20% to 2% from 1,000 feet to a half a mile away underneath the cell tower if the home was pre-existing. So there is a drop. So it does affect, for one person to gain and people around them to take a negative effect, you know, that's also under.
You were Dave, correct? Your name was Dave?
Yes.
Okay, that was Dave.
Good recall.
Did you guys say it was being put up in their backyard?
Mr. Chair, that's correct. It is.
Because it's actually the front yard.
Mr. Chair, the way the zoning ordinance defines the front yard of the lot, this is the front lot line to the north, even though the driveway is to the east. So this is the rear yard because it's behind the rear line of the house.
Closest to us.
Questions or comments at this time?
How did this determine that,
Mr. Chair, this was a prior question, so.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm sorry.
Essentially, the cell phone tower company will approach landowners seeking sites. They'll enter into an agreement for a lease. Then they bring the application forward to the city. The city reacts to the application. We don't direct where they have to locate this. So we have to evaluate the request they're making based on the criteria in the ordinance.
how can the community that ours are here, how can we actually fight it other than tell you we're not happy with it? Say, well, too bad for them, put it up anyway. That's a great question. That's what happens. And I'm just saying how, you know, if we are all against it, I don't know how you can go forward with something that you know we are all fearful that it's just going to impact our lives, the lives of our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. Myself as an elderly woman.
Mr.
I have a
Chair.
daughter there that's got cancer. I don't want that kind of thing pounding away at her when she has no immunity or nothing. You have to consider what is going on, you know, these are just houses to you, to the people that are gonna do this. What you do, take care of the houses and what's going on. Find out how many people are in those homes and how many people really could be suffering because of that after a period of time. It may not happen in a year or two, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, who's gonna pay the price for those people being sick or dying? It's not gonna be your committee. That you're gonna be responsible for why it's there. So I would wish you would take that all into consideration.
Mr. Chair. So as I said at the outset, any comments related to the operation of a cell tower and its potential effects is not the purview of the city. Is solely regulated by the federal government and them issuing a license to the cell phone operator to have these antennas. So the city can only limit its concerns to the provisions set out in the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance establishes rights to use property. Cell tower operator has the right to approach a property owner with a proposal. The property owner has the right to bring that proposal before the Planning Commission and City Council to see and have it evaluated whether it meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Truman can outline how they determined that there was a need for a tower in this location. And if the Planning Commission needs more information regarding that, it can certainly be requested.
So we don't have the right, though, to say we don't want it. Somebody says there's a right
Mr.
for us to have it.
Mr. Chair, so the zoning ordinance establishes property rights.
We have no rights to.
You have the right to your property allowed by the zoning ordinance, and this property owner has the right to the uses established by the zoning ordinance on their property. If they comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance, they're allowed to have this, if approved by the city.
So you want one person being happy getting a paycheck? You want a whole community?
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, this isn't a popularity contest.
No, it isn't.
It's the federal government says this is a required use of property that the city has to provide for. So the city's adopted standards. If the applicant demonstrates that they meet those standards, then they have a right to the use.
But they also have the right to say.
There is a process for that. That is a process allowed by state law. It's not the practice of the city of Baldwin to use that, and it's certainly not involved in this situation. We have a willing property owner and a willing company bringing forward a request that the city must react to.
I understand he has the right to. Unity. And if he wanted to grow wheat in his backyard, he'd say, oh, no, you can't do that. Well, the neighbors might think, well, that's pretty good.
Actually, the state says you can do that now, so.
I'm not in the loop of that.
Yeah.
We're gonna walk right there because you're not at the podium. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, it's prohibited by the city. It's right in your ordinance. I don't know why Mr. Lick did not put this in his assessment.
Mr. Chair, so we did review that. Our count was that it was within the 24 homes of a platted area. We can reevaluate that. Case by case measurements, so.
Must have ran out of fingers.
Yeah. Every one of those homes have children in them too. Just so
Mr. Chair, again, I'd maybe have Mr. Truman speak to how they determined the need for the tower based on his analysis that was provided.
Yep, so the need is justified by Verizon and their network demands. So they have radio frequency engineers that run the modeling tools, and those modeling tools find the most efficient locations to be able to place a tower in order to meet the network demands and to minimize the number of towers that are being built in any jurisdiction. Verizon, first and foremost, with any carrier, they always pursue co-location on existing structures first, purely from the fact of they want to integrate into the community to the best of their ability, and it's immensely expensive to build new towers. The existing towers to the north, south, east, and west, Verizon is already located on those structures, and they still cannot meet the network demands of the residents in this area. So that is what is driving this. The other factors that come into the play of the selection of a location is that we have to abide by the zoning regulations that are adopted under this jurisdiction. We have to select a site that's buildable. It can't be wetlands, floodplains, Indian burial mounds. There's a plethora of items that go into selecting a site to make sure we're compliant at a federal and state level. And then we need to also find landowners who are willing to lease. We can't, force people take their land, anything of that sort. It has to be a mutual agreement. And so that's how a location is determined.
Okay. Okay, just to let everybody know, we are simply a recommendation body for the city council. At whether we approve, or we recommend approval, whether we recommend it not to be approved, or in the previous situation, it still goes to the city council, so we are simply a recommendation body. Level, gives everybody a chance to voice their opinion, gives us a chance to look into some of the stuff, hence the 29 homes that will be looked into. So we are a recommendation body. So when you say if we approve it here, we are making recommendations. So until the motion is made, we don't know what we're recommending to the city council. We're a recommendation body. We work with this. Last comments or questions from anybody? Safe. Anyone else from the public have any comments or questions? Yep.
I heard Alex mention that it was the most efficient. That's exactly right. It's the cheapest. There's other land available. Efficient means cheapest. That's all it is a money grab. Again, if you approve this, you're approving a $195 billion company as a money grab versus its residents. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Questions or comments?
John Clover, 28213 128th Street Northwest. Doesn't sound like we have a whole lot of say in this, but you know what? We do the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of this stuff. I'm sorry I was late. I had to work late. We pray together as a community. If anyone would pray with me, I'd appreciate a prayer. And let's just hope this goes the way it's supposed to. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Or comments or questions? Comments?
I guess you said they had a modeling program that would pick the best location. How far away can this move and you still get what you need? I mean, is it a half a mile? Is it a mile?
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, if they have any other questions, otherwise it's okay. Alex, if you'd approach.
So the search radius for this was a quarter-mile radius in order to integrate into the network. And when we say efficiently, it has nothing to do with the cost of it whatsoever. It's due to optimizing that system. And like I said, there's a lot of different thresholds that we need to look at to find a parcel, those 4 or 5 items that I previously laid out. And this met those criteria. We can't force anybody to lease land to us, and then we have the restrictions of zoning itself, federal and state law and regulations that we need to abide by. So there was no other location in this vicinity that can meet the network goals. This is the only option.
How many miles in between each tower is there?
I don't know if you have a measuring tool I can. Is there
There's not a scale on
a scale on there at all?
Miles to that 5027. Yeah.
from here.
Miles?
About 2 miles,
Towers are 2 miles apart?
2.25.
As the crow flies?
As a crow flies. From 169 to Highway 1 is 2 miles.
Probably about 3 or 4.
I actually don't.
Okay, that's it.
Alex at 12633 280th Avenue. Now, why not work with the community and talk to the people that have said, hey, this tower would work really great right here. If you look right above Cantlin, in that same area of, square feet, there's a lot for sale with one house by it. It's on the market right now. I'm just saying. Just above Cantlin. There's no houses around it. I mean, for your square footage, there's fields all above Cantlin Lake there. And the property's for sale. I mean, why shove this tower next to a bunch of houses when you can shove it above where there's fields and nobody's around? And it's for sale right now on the market. And that is my only thing, is just why shove it down here when you can shove it up on a plot of land that's for sale with nobody around it? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Okay. Do you have anything you want to comment or say in closing? Questions for Alex? Okay, any additional questions or comments before we close the public portion of the meeting? Any additional questions or comments? Any additional questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion of this discussion.
Motion to close the public portion.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, public portion of this discussion has been closed.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to thank all the residents for coming tonight. And hopefully the chair, let you know that, and you've got the mayor here who's been very patiently listening to all your comments, because it will go to the council no matter what our decision would be, because they are the final body that makes that final decision, approve, deny, whatever it is. So, but thank you all for coming. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of passion for this item in front of the Planning Commission tonight. So thank you all for coming.
Okay. More discussion from anyone? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Point of discussion, Mr. Chair. Can we include, so there's a question about the ordinance, the 24 versus 29. Can we make that a condition of that it gets evaluated properly before?
Mr. Chair, I was going to recommend adding condition number 11, the proposed tower location shall comply with section 900-27-7.a of the zoning ordinance. And Mr. Chair, our intent would be to have that analysis completed before this is presented to City Council.
Dufferin?
I heard a lot of people mention the concern with the electromagnetic waves, and I just want to go over that cell phone towers do not, they do emit the radio frequency waves, or RFs, and they're a form of ionizing radiation. So I don't believe we identified those in their proper terminology. Your cell phone does produce more RFs than the cell phone tower would, or you're exposed to more, it doesn't actually, but you're exposed to more considered the cell phone tower. And I know there was a question as far as like, why don't we put them in the hospitals? I'm actually from Pinellas County. It's a population of 1 million people in that county. And we do, or like there's been proposals and proponents for putting them into the schools because we have this space and it gives back to the community. That being said, I do think it's important that we hear that the community isn't necessarily happy with this decision. But I just want to make sure as far as like we know, the World Health Organization, US Food and Drug Administration have said, and they have about 25, years of research on this because we have grown up with cell phone towers, or at least I've grown up with cell phone tower exposure. So I do think it's important to know the facts, but I also think it's important to hear out the community and know at the end of the day how they are feeling about everything.
Bostock? Any other comments? Maybe otherwise I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this, pass it on to the city council with the change to the conditions, that they're met properly.
11.
What's the addition of condition number 11? That's my motion.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We will recommend, majority vote recommends approval to the city council. It will be on your agenda next week, 7 o'clock.
Mr. Chair, it's tentatively scheduled for next Wednesday at 7 o'clock pending submission of the analysis. The agenda has to be prepared by Friday. So if we are not in receipt of that, it'll be held off to a future meeting.
Okay. That brings us to number 4. City of Baldwin. 2 points here, A and B. Number A is the adoption of the comprehensive plan. B is the zoning ordinance amendment established R2 district. City of Baldwin, A, adoption of the comprehensive plan. Mr. Licht.
So the city has undertaken an update of its comprehensive plan. The purpose of the comprehensive plan is to do an inventory of existing conditions to document the status of the community today and where it stands in terms of growth and development and impacts related to that. Once that inventory is somewhat completed, the Planning Commission went through a process to identify and look at the strengths, weaknesses of the community, and then also the threats and opportunities that future growth may bring to Baldwin. After that process is kind of looking globally, those issues are all kind of grouped together and refined down to summarize major issues that the city wants to address as part of its planning process for this cycle. These plans typically last for about 20 years, or they get updated as new issues come forward. So, for example, another city I work for decided to build sewer and water systems. So within 5 years of adopting a comprehensive plan, they had to update it to address that major change. But the goal is to establish a long-term vision for Baldwin into the future. That vision is intended to carry beyond the current comprehensive plan well into the future and be really kind of the permanent vision that evolves over time. So that's done through establishment and drafting of goals for what the city wants to see in the future, of what this community will be in terms of its land use, development, and infrastructure, and then policies to have that come to fruition in the means to accomplish that. So once you kind of have that generalized vision of the city established. She put together a framework consisting of a land use plan and then infrastructure plans that support that vision and help provide information and communication to landowners, the community about what's expected to occur over time, and also communicate to the development community as to what Baldwin is interested in seeing have happen. Talked about that development is really a three-way partnership. It involves willing landowners, willing to sell, developers willing to buy in response to an active market, and then the city's a third wheel in that, providing infrastructure and the ability to develop. Once that framework is in place in the form of a comprehensive plan, it's then implemented through the zoning ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, and other city codes. Comprehensive planning is considered to be a legislative action by the city. You're establishing policy. So this is really the opportunity where the city gets to, anything sticks at this point, that what you want to see is what will happen, and what you don't want to see won't happen. The city is given broad discretion in that. Obviously, there are some things that either the federal government or the state, as jurisdictions under those entities, are forced to deal with as part of its development on a case-by-case or specific use basis. So the process for updating this comprehensive plan, the last plan was done in 2014 as part of a larger community visioning process. It was incorporated as part of the Sherburne County Comprehensive Plan, as Baldwin Township was under their jurisdiction up until incorporation in 2024. Once Baldwin became incorporated, it's solely responsible for its own planning and zoning and has authority to set its own policies distinct from Sherburne County, and doesn't have to be compatible with or similar or as restricted as those regulations. So the Planning Commission had been anxious from the time I started working here to re-dive into this comprehensive plan process, but we kind of had to hold off so as not to tip the city's hands about incorporation until that process was complete. Once that was completed and the city was granted city status, municipal status, City Council endorsed the Planning Commission moving forward. City Council also established a moratorium prohibiting any development within basically a quarter mile of the 169 corridor, with the idea of protecting areas that might be suitable for future commercial and industrial development until after this process was complete and the new regulations could be established. So the Planning Commission has been working intently on this for just almost 3 years now. Through a number of Planning Commission members. I was writing the acknowledgement section that goes with this, and the number of retired Planning Commissioners that I felt were appropriate to include was equal to the number of current Planning Commission members. It's an unusual layout there.
It is.
So the process under state law for adoption of a comprehensive plan is for the city to hold a public hearing, and then the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the City Council. City Council then adopts it by a 4/5 vote, hopefully, and then it goes forward to implementation, which includes review of zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance provisions necessary to realize the plans that have been put together. So the community issues that were identified through this process include focusing on identifying Baldwin as a place unique from its surrounding cities, which is more typically associated with as a rural area. Preservation of rural character is probably the first and foremost issue in the city of Baldwin. It was the primary impetus for incorporation. As the mayor was famously quoted during the incorporation process, he wanted this to be the city of Baldwin Township. So the intent of the city council and the town board prior to that was that what is here today will continue in the future. There's no intent to change what is made Baldwin what it is today. With that, though, there's a need to recognize the management of growth, because growth brings needs for additional city services and infrastructure that places financial burdens upon the government, can lead to increases in taxes and other negative effects that are to be avoided through establishing the ability to control growth and ensure that it's at a pace that is being served by adequate infrastructure in those services. So another means of growth management is economic development. Again, with the incorporation process, it was seen as critical that Baldwin focus on developing additional commercial and industrial uses. Two purposes. One, the goal is really to increase the tax base and shift that property tax burden from residential taxpayers onto commercial and industrial to the extent possible, because under state law, they pay a much higher percentage of their value and they have much higher property values. So the other benefit of economic development is obviously having jobs within the city. There's opportunities for people that live here to work here. Also having industrial development or daytime employment especially helps fuel the demand for commercial development, because those businesses can't rely simply on residents when they're coming home at night or going out shopping, eating after work, but you need to have continuous business throughout the day. Housing is going to be a challenge in Baldwin simply because without utilities, the only form of housing is going to be single family. There are some opportunities, and the council has directed the planning commission to start looking at those options to provide options for generational housing, or the ability to have multiple generations in the same place or the same property or nearby. Transportation, obviously the city is well served by its existing roadways because we're not planning any new major roadways over the next 20 years, but maintenance of these existing roads and improvement to accommodate the growth that is occurring will be an important consideration. City facilities will expand as growth continues. The city is currently obviously looking at the infrastructure committee and the need to evaluate these facilities as well as the fire department and public works. And that will have impacts to how the city manages itself moving forward. Parks, open space, and trails is related to both rural character and the desirability of living in Baldwin. That's a topic that we've basically blanked out at this point as part of the comprehensive plan, and the park committee will be taking that on starting next month. That's backwards. So in terms of what has happened in terms of population growth, I did change the table in the text, but not on the PowerPoint. So the past growth, the rate is between 28 and 34 new homes per year. So if you forecast that out, it gets Baldwin close to within 1,000 or 2,000 people of 10,000. So it's not a big number. It is for Baldwin, obviously, but in terms of scale of a city, it's not. Baldwin's still going to be one of the biggest cities in Sherburne County. When you consider that it doesn't have sewer and water utilities, that's pretty remarkable. And especially on this Highway 169 corridor, as these improvements have been made in Elk River and now Zimmerman, that growth we would expect to continue as people, again, choose the rural character environment, work from home, school from home, even makes that more attractive. So the main focus and what everyone looks at as part of the comprehensive plan is the land use plan. Former Commissioner Bill McGowan was always wanting to color the maps, and was so excited when we finally got the markers out and started doing this. So basically what this lays out is the future land use pattern for Baldwin as fully developed. The primary focus, of course, is rural uses and rural residential, which is going to continue to be the primary land use category, but we've targeted specific areas for commercial and industrial uses at locations accessible from Highway 169 that would be appropriate for those uses. Public uses will follow as development increases or as city needs increase, either city facilities, potential county facilities, or even school district facilities. Parks is something that obviously the park committee will be looking at expanding upon what the city already holds, primarily focused at Young Park currently. So for residential uses, continuing the maximum 2.5 dwelling units per acre. With the change in the zoning scheme that's being proposed, the city will have greater control to match density to the character of surrounding area. Again, single family dwellings only. Those residential uses currently make up 34% of the land area. Would, as part of the future land use plan, be up to almost 90% of the land uses within Baldwin. And again, there's still the opportunity to look at considerations for generational housing while still maintaining that rural density and rural character. Commercial land uses intended to serve both local patrons and obviously take advantage of the Highway 169 corridor and By commercial, we're talking about retail, office, and service type businesses that need that access and visibility to the traffic on 169. And so these are basically set up as nodes of those types of businesses versus the 2014 plan basically identified the entire corridor as commercial use, which it's not viable from a quantity standpoint or an access standpoint. So the other thing I would kind of highlight is that the amount of land shown for commercial basically gets to be about 10% with the industrial of the total city area, which is reasonable. That may be overshooting the mark, but based on the rural density in Baldwin, but there's always the opportunity to pull back from these areas as specific developments come in those quadrants to reevaluate. But this at least reserves the ability for the city to achieve that economic development that it seeks. Industrial development is planned primarily west of County Road 45 and north of County Road 42, as expanding on the smaller existing areas west of 169 and proximate to the Princeton Airport and industrial uses in Princeton itself. So those areas with large tracts would be suitable, not only potentially subdivided into smaller business sites, but also to attract larger facilities as well. So again, you're looking probably at office manufacturing, some assembly and warehouse uses. The main constraint will be lack of utilities for fire protection or sewage treatment. So that ends up being approximately 6% of the area, again, combined with the commercial. The focus on transportation is getting people to and from Highway 169. The existing system of county roads serves that fairly well. There are a number of city collector streets throughout. Again, we're not proposing any new collector streets as part of the system, just improvement and maintenance of the existing. So the requested actions for the Planning Commission tonight would be to recommend approval of the comprehensive plan as presented. With respect to the R2 district zoning amendments, the Planning Commission had discussed a number of updates at their prior meeting. We didn't have those back from GIS as of the packet going out, so we will ask that you continue the public hearing on that item to the meeting on July 29th.
Mr. Lake. Okay, a lot of work has went into this. Original member, Harris, sat right there for decades, it seemed like, wanting this to come to fruition. So getting to this point is actually very, very huge. A lot of commissioners have put a lot of work in, and here we are. I know to you, Commissioner Bostock, you just got to see it 2 weeks ago for the first time. So there's a lot there for everybody. Any comments, questions, concerns? I know Commissioner West, you had a concern with both of the new commissioners just seeing it for the first time, making sure they had time. But like we said, we can always address it. But was there anything that you saw in between 2 weeks ago now that you would like to address?
No, I know it started going over just some of the their inconsistencies and typo type things, and I had emailed some suggestions for that. And I have one question about it. At the beginning, you talked about how if something were to come up, we were to magically get sewage and we had to address it. What if it was something simpler? We're constantly giving a variance and we're why do we even have this at, obviously it's not this one because we didn't pass it, but at 10 feet and we're always giving the variance at 9. Why don't we just change that? Is it that simple to be we should change this one because we're just constantly giving variances for it anyway?
Mr. Chair, so that's the number one rule of variances, is the Planning Commission has done very well at adhering to you don't approve variances unless it's really unique. But if there's an issue that repeatedly comes up and the Planning Commission's granting the variance, that suggests the ordinance needs to be changed. Because it's going to be approved, so this is deemed to be an appropriate situation. You don't want to have property owners keep going through this process to have something that seems like it is reasonable to the Planning Commission and to the City Council. So,
good point. Someone brought that up 3 years ago because we were having variances and coming up with it. What if there is something that keeps coming up? And it's well, then let's address it. Say, you know what, let's just make the change so there isn't that variance that they have to keep coming in.
Yeah. Okay. So
Mr. Chair, and I think even example like tonight on the discussion about the side yard setbacks, that was mirroring a prior discussion that the Planning Commission had before you were appointed. That helps staff as well, because then we can give advice to the property owners and say, Okay, I understand you're proposing this setback, but the planning commission hasn't supported it now twice. We had cautioned them about that setback going into this meeting, so that will help us help you by reducing those types of requests that aren't going to be approved or aren't going to meet those criteria.
Anyone have anything they want to say, or on the first part, I'd entertain a motion to recommend approval to the city
Chair,
council to adopt?
you do have to open the public hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Look, right, this is a public hearing. That's right. Totally forgot. Getting excited about it. Might be done. At this time, I'll open this portion of the meeting to the public. If anyone has any comments or questions? Comments or questions? Okay, let's just. Comments or questions? Okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to close the public portion.
Make a motion to close the public hearing on the comprehensive plan.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, public portion of this discussion has been closed. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. Okay, any comments, questions, or recommendations?
I'll make a motion for adoption of the comprehensive plan.
Second. Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll recommend adoption of the comprehensive plan. It's on your agenda. Excellent. Okay, that brings us to number 2.
Go ahead.
Zoning ordinance amendment, as Mr. Lick stated. Entertain a motion to continue this until July 29th. Someone will make that motion.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for the zoning ordinance amendment to be on the agenda for the July 29th, 2026 meeting.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, same sign. Okay, we will recommend motion to continue the public hearing regarding this amendment on the zoning ordinance to the planning commission. 6. Boom. Okay, that brings us to, that closes the public hearing portion of this meeting. Now we have E, new business. There's nothing on the agenda. F, old business. There's also nothing on the agenda for tonight. G, that brings us to our city council liaison update. This time we'll turn over to the mayor.
How long do you want it? Well, I can't even tell you how much I wanted to speak. But I wanted to also let know, especially for some of the new folks here, whatever, you'll see me sitting very quietly. You know what I mean? I want to hear you guys. I don't want to steer you guys, right? And there's also legal implications to that as well. You know what I mean? If I said, hey, Mr. Chair, there's a cell tower right out here. By the fire.
I almost said that.
I wanted to say something.
I almost said it.
If you told me, I would have said it.
If I would have said that, right, you know what I mean, then we all would be accused of me having steered anybody's direction in any way, shape, or form, right? So that's why I will always stay quiet and I will do nothing. You brought up ordinance changes just a little bit, like if we have variances that are all that, that would be a very simple process, if you will, wouldn't necessarily alter the comprehensive plan, right? You know what I mean? I mean, unless they were absolutely egregious or somewhere where, yeah, we've decided this is all gonna be commercial, the whole thing. Well, that would be, could possibly alter maps and some things. For the most part, it wouldn't. Let's see here. Next is civil defense sirens. This is just an interesting thing. So a year ago, Xcel Energy, through years of effort, apparently, lobbied the state, the feds, whatever, and they don't have to have civil defense sirens anymore for the Monticello nuke plant. So they have said, we're done with civil defense sirens, right? And so Sherburne County then took those over, if you will, and said that, okay, since Xcel doesn't want to run them, they'll continue to do that. And they're paying the cost at about $750 per siren per year as an annual fee to keep them updated, upgraded, ready to rock. And all of this comes from our 911 dispatch system when they go off. So that's how they go off. So Sherburne County has now decided they are one of the only county in about 5 county area that is actually doing this. Some cities own theirs. Elk River owns their sirens. I think Zimmerman owns a couple of sirens. Anyway, but how this affects us is we have 5 sirens in Baldwin. And so the question is that, well, what Sherburne County is gonna start to do is decommission them all, take them down. We won't have civil defense sirens. So part of this, I'd like to hear your guys' take on how do you feel about, civil defense sirens? My whole thing is we get everything on this telephone. You know what I mean? I mean, if a storm comes in, whatever, it goes off on the phone, that kind of a thing, whatever. My only caveat to that would be, what about the middle of the night? Would a siren wake somebody up in the event of something, whatever, that maybe their phone wouldn't? But I think most people sleep with their phones right on the nightstand anyway. So does that affect? Anyway, and so it would be about $4,000 a year roughly for the 5 sirens. If we took them over, we owned them. We would get the zoning rights, or at least the poles, right? Because they're in the road right away. We would be granted the road right away access to all of these, given the name of the outfit that the county is actually using, maintaining them, and doing these kind of things, whatever, and that type of thing. And we would continue along those aspects. Livonia, they're looking at none of the other townships wanted anything to do with it. So they're like, okay, let them go. Livonia, as a township now, though they're Livonia and Zimmerman are kind of 2 peas in a pod, if you will. It's a township and a city. There's very stark differences between they govern themselves. But they're working together to see if Zimmerman and Livonia want to do something with those sirens. Baldwin, we would ultimately be on. So I had a long, if we took them over, there wouldn't be any onus on us as far as, liability, right? If the siren doesn't go off and somebody didn't hear it, you know what I mean? We're trying to maintain to the best of our ability, whatever, so the responsibility wouldn't be shoved down our throat for the, that house, heaven forbid, we understand what could happen. But for those types of things, we wouldn't be taking on that onus. We would also have the ability to decommission them at any time if this.
So the trigger still goes by the 911 center?
Correct. Set them off.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Oops, sorry, that's him.
Mr. Chair, Mayor, they're now called outdoor warning sirens, by the way, not civil defense.
It used to be civil defense, right? That's why.
But I'm old school, and I personally would like to see them stay. That's why they're called outdoor warning sirens. Sure, most people have their phones but not everybody. Case in point, one time when I lived in Elk River, I was outside doing things, phone was in the house, and all of a sudden I hear, and it wasn't that bad of a night, there goes the outdoor warning siren. And that's when I was still fire chief in Elk River. I thought, what's going on? And so I would love to see the city of Baldwin continue to maintain them for the $750 per year. I just happened to see the guy on 2 the other day, repairing, checking, whatever, the siren that's on 2 and 19, just west of there, 19. But anyway, I would like to see the city continue to have the outdoor warning. That's just personal.
I also would like to, I would also like to see it continue, only because I talked to a lot of seniors who don't have cell phones.
We had one in here tonight that said that.
Yeah, and they're very honest about it, and they like the sirens going off, even the test. So I'd say continue. I think it's a good use.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, I think it's the service that's needed for the community. I mean, either kids playing outside, they don't have cell phones either, they might be playing outside. If they hear the siren, they're gonna ask. If their parents teach them properly, they're gonna report back to the house. Seniors don't have access to some of the services. I think it would be a disservice to the community.
What's the disadvantage of having it? Is there disadvantage, other than the noise, but that's the purpose of it?
The disadvantage to having it,
Can't think of a reason why not.
Cost, maintenance
Yes,
cost, that's it.
$4,000 a year roughly. And these are, we're gonna have to find out, and there's no hurry on this. By January, I talked to Bruce Messelt, who was the Sherburne County Administrator. By January, or starting literally January 1, they are gonna begin decommissioning. They are gonna be taking the sirens down off the poles, whatever, unless the local municipalities want. So there will be no cost for us to take these over, other than the electricity. We'll have to talk to Connexus and see what it costs. We'll keep them juiced up. And then I don't believe there's any cost, whatever, at least that wasn't conveyed to me, for the actual dispatch part of it, whatever. That just happens. And that's already hooked up and ready to rock anyway. So now the question is do the sirens work, keep them maintained, whatever, in operational condition? And they're gonna have dozens of these that they take down, and they're willing to give us bunches of them if we want. You know what I mean, and things like that, whatever. So technically, this go on for roughly $4,000 a year. And again, well, and again too, the catalyst for this was Xcel Energy was doing all of this. They were running all of it. Part of it was because of the new plant. When I lived in Otsego for 14 years, every year we got the emergency fallout plan in case something happened at the nuke plant, right? So nothing ever happened. One of the control panels fell off the wall one day, just out of the blue, whatever. I don't know that it scrammed the reactor or did anything that way, whatever, you know what I mean? But other than that, there was never any trouble. I'm not sure how they lobbied or did whatever they had to do to get out from under the onus of outdoor warning sirens for this type of a thing. They did, and so that left all of these sirens out there unowned, if you will. Said, to heck with it, we're going to take them down. And again, like I say, Sherburne County took the onus upon themselves as a county to say, well, we'll keep them going. Now the county is saying, everybody gets their information from cell phones, and the weather service is with us wherever we are. So that's what they're looking at as their reason to have them would be storm warnings, sky aware type of thing, whatever. And they don't feel at this point in time that it's working.
Short-sighted. It's short-sighted on my opinion.
One of the things we can do is, we were trying to take care of our residents. Put it on a 3-year plan. Say, hey, we're gonna keep them running for 3 years. We're gonna evaluate it. During that 3 years, we can get the feedback from the community. They can say, at a certain point, if we make it known to them, hey, these were canceled, we kept them going because we thought it was a service. Should we continue this service or not? And then after a 3-year period, you've shown the due diligence of maintaining the system, and then after that due diligence, you give them an opportunity to decide.
If nothing else, on a trial basis.
Yep. Good idea.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, I might be the odd one out and I don't feel strongly, but I don't really think they're that important. I guess I don't know the demographic breakdown of the area, which might influence my decision, but anyone like my generation or younger, we just ignore things. We do not care. We will not exit a building for a fire alarm.
Oh, we know.
So they would be wasted on pretty much anyone 35 or younger, I would say. But we might not be where that demographic is the takeover here.
That's parenting.
Yeah, but why we die. So at a certain point, I do think it wouldn't be useful. I also did not even know we were near a nuclear power plant, which makes the cell phone tower conversation even crazier to me because that's a nuclear power plant. So I wouldn't even known had they gone off that was an issue.
Yeah, that's a little.
Nuclear power, that's crazy compared to cell phone tower, nothing. But so yeah, so I mean, it depends on the demographics, but I'd say like for myself, my peers, it does not affect us.
Like the panic button on a car, walking through parking lot and beep, it goes off and you just go. You don't even jump, you just go. And you just walking, and it's like, was there a reason? My car, when it was trying to be stolen, my wife, she's like, oh yeah, his car alarm's going off. He must have bumped his fob. And meanwhile, someone was actually breaking into it, stealing it. It was just, car alarm. So, whoops, that's not recorded, is it? I love my wife.
agree with Ed that you take a look at this program year to year, if all of a sudden, it's starting to become a maintenance nightmare because of cost. They are expensive, not only to put in, but to maintain sometimes. And they're mechanical, so things can go wrong and it's not a $200 fix anymore. Now, the nice part today is the company that does the repairs, they also get, when the monthly test goes off, they get a report on each one. And so that can be reported to the city of Baldwin that, this one's working, that whatever happens, so that's the nice part about today's technology is that it's just a simple report that would come right to the city.
Yeah.
But if it becomes a maintenance nightmare, I understand what Sarah's saying, but, take a look at it and evaluate it year by year. And then if you need to, then decommission them.
For all of us old fogies. About 8 years ago, the median age was 37 years of age in Baldwin. That was the average age. So that's the demographic.
I guess they'll do.
Anyway, and then with that, the other part of that, along with sirens here, we also talked at the last council meeting and we approved. I don't know if you guys are doing the text my gov.
Yep.
If you're getting that, whatever, we're gonna tag that to iPause, and we'll start getting text alerts too for weather and those types of things.
Okay.
On that.
Good deal.
So, anyway, let's see how it goes. What makes me even a little bit interested in I'm gonna call them civil defense sirens. It was duck under your desk, remember back in the days, whatever, da-da-da, yeah.
And cover.
Yep, duck and cover, right? Anyway, and, they're already there, right? It's not gonna cost us anything to implement this, it's only gonna cost something to maintain it. And again, if it does become crazy, then there is no point. Let's see here, 100th Street and 297th, an update on that. We had discussion at a last meeting, council meeting, to actually split that. Because we're finding that we're getting on 297th Street, we're getting the easements and we're doing these things there. People are more receptive than they are, quote, on 100th Street, if you will. So we're working with the engineers, whatnot, to split that. I mean, we are so in over our head on 100th Street and the planning and the engineering costs, and everything, whatever, for that particular road. I've been around here, 17, so I'm gonna say 15, 14 years ago, we had a shovel-ready plan to do 100th Street, right? Well, that would have been as a township road, now it's gonna be an MSA road, right? So the difference between a township road and an MSA road is 7 feet on either side of that road now that we need to acquire whatever for easements. Some people like it, some people, we've got a lot of people that said, yep, not a problem. We've had other people say, absolutely no, that ain't ever gonna happen with us. So, in order to possibly do something, we're looking at possibly doing 297th, because that seems to be the one that everybody seems to be a go. And we're gonna see. So the project, we'll lose the economies of scale, because we won't be doing both roads at the same time. I don't know what'll happen to 100th Street at this point in time, but at least we'll move on. The thought of the council is at least we can move on at least one part of that project, get that done, and then move to the rest of the city. And then the other thing too that was interesting to me is tonight you guys had a vote, and it was 3-3, nothing. It was a tie, it was nothing. And you are fully staffed with 7 members. Even fully staffed with 7 members, if you will, whatnot, because of a vacancy and absence or whatever, we can still have tie votes. You know what I mean? And so, and with that, I just want to say, basically that comes to the council is, I don't know, you decide, right? And that's cool, that's fine, that's absolutely cool. You know what I mean? And I also too want to say that, especially with cell towers and with the public hearing that happened tonight, I knew this was going to happen. People called me about this, and that kind of a thing. We're the 3rd largest township in the state of Minnesota, with 7,100 people, and it was 75 at one time, 7,500 people. But at any rate, and as a city, we are larger than 721 of the 855 cities in the state. And everybody has one of these. I know we had somebody who says they don't have one, and we understand, right? But, I mean, when you're doing this, you're getting more than what you're doing there, and there's a reason why the state and the feds take over, let's call it the health reasons around all of that, right? You know what I mean? Because if they didn't, we'd never have a cell tower ever anywhere, no matter what, right? You know what I mean? Kind of like with power plants, whatever. We need another power plant. Well, as soon as something that were ever to come in, they would talk to Dan and they'd say, we want to put it over here. And we'd all have a problem with that because nobody wants it in their backyard. But guess what? If it was viable and was going to happen and was going to be a piece of what Baldwin's history is going to be, more than likely it's going to wind up happening, right? So there it is. You guys did a phenomenal job listening to everybody. Thank you for doing that. The people, even though they were disgruntled, they were heard. That's the whole point. You know what I mean? And there are times like this when it fits the zoning. One of the gentlemen that spoke tonight, I'm not going to say which one, called me and I'm like, well, I said, guess what? I said, it's zoned R1. That is a viable use for that piece of property. And the fact that it's a viable use for that piece of property, even though nobody wants it, you know what I mean, does not make it possible for the city to say no. Right? And I'm like, so we could. You know, the planning commission should say, yep, we don't care about the state, we don't care about the feds, we don't care about raw rules and regulations. No, we don't want it, right? And then the council could follow suit, whatever, and say, absolutely not. Well, then Verizon's gonna come in and say, guess what, we need to have this here, we're gonna fight this. You guys went against your own zoning ordinance, you can't do that. We'll spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in attorney's fees, lose, pay fines in the end, and the tower goes into the same spot anyway. So literally, that's full circle, that's how that would happen.
Sure, I have a question, because we had a couple of things going through at the same time. We've promoted the comprehensive plan be approved. If for any reason the comprehensive plan were to be approved and one of these other things were to like have to sit in limbo due to us looking up something, and all of a sudden, like it's promoted as like it's in an R1, but it might be now considered an R2. Does that all get sorted out?
Yep, Mr. Chair, so everything going through now would have been acted on before that. The regulations won't change for this property in that R2 zoning, so.
And last but not least, cell towers, we have one. The city makes $1,100 a month on that cell tower being there. Usually that cell tower was actually there before I got on the board. And that was in collaboration actually with the fire department and the county in getting our emergency services, whether you can see the round. Sherburne County, that was part of dispatch and part of getting that stuff here, was to put the cell tower there. And there's a company called SBA, don't know what it is, but they're the one that owns the tower, right? So they own the tower, they built the tower, and they're gonna lease it to other people. And so anytime another carrier goes on, like Verizon just went on, Verizon is on his tower. Anyway, and so, and I'd hope that we could ask him, you know what I mean, talk to him something about how close the towers really need to be, because we know whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, and with that, every time a new carrier would get put on there, we get 25%. Right? And so as more carriers get put on there, the city makes right ever from that. And that's a 25-year lease with the option of one more renewal of the lease, right? And so, and I think when it comes to it, it depends on what the deal is, whatever, with this particular landowner. But I don't think Verizon or any of the carriers themselves want to own the land, right? Exactly. They want nothing to do with that. So, but now you have SBA, in the case of this tower here, whatnot, that will own the tower. So they'll work out the lease with the city, which is what they did, or a township at the time. Anyways, X amount. And for whatever it was worth, it was a pittance when I got on the board. And then between our attorney, Mike Curry, whatever, and the board at the time, whatnot, we browbeat them, whatever, and literally quadrupled what we were making because that was the going rate at the time. Right? Anyway, so there it is. Cell towers. We already have one here, whatever. It's kind of like crazy to say, no, somebody else can't. The other part of that too is what the real issue was, is we have a landowner in this new tower here, whatnot, that wants this tower on his property. So what the balance is letting the landowner do what he wants to do on his property. That's the true value, if you will, whatever, versus what the community thinks about it. And that tower, like I said, that's been there 16, 18 years, 19 years, something. And this place over here sold for an exorbitant price. Some others in the housing developments up here have sold over the years for the same thing. I am just gonna say it really has not, for any in real means, affected anybody's values. They are still as Baldwin is. Right? Anyway, that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them. Otherwise, let's go home.
Have any questions for him? Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, that'll bring us to our commissioner update. I would just like to say, first of all, thank you very much. That's a very hard one when you have homeowners that are so passionate, their plea, how they feel, and you sit here and listen to them, and you certainly hear what they're saying. But when you look at it in this owner's use of the property, that's 100% liable for them to do that. It's hard when to not have compassion for their feelings, which we have. I had compassion for the feelings, but knowing that it's going to end up getting so. But thank you very much, everybody, for that. That's probably the second hardest one I've been involved with. Do you mind if I asked you why you voted no?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I believe that cell tower of that nature does not belong in a residential neighborhood. And we have plenty of potential along Highway 169. And yes, I understand they want it in the perfect spot, but I just think they weren't, should have done more research, Verizon, to find a different spot. I just don't believe it should be in a residential neighborhood.
Okay.
That's why I voted no.
Okay, round the horn, we'll go.
On that, you have to look at the coverage maps and see, if you were to look at that coverage map and shift that over, what does that do to the coverage? I mean, obviously they placed it there because that's the best place for the entire.
Absolutely. I understand the concept and.
On that last one that we approved over by Sandy Lake, they had a better coverage map that showed us before and after. And we didn't have it for this one, and it would have been nice if they had it. Just going forward, because like he said, he's gonna be back in front of us 5 more times. So.
But he said. Speaking of coming up on agenda items, so.
You gotta remember why this cell tower was put here, this tower was put here. Back when that was put in, all emergency communication was on VHF, not 800 megahertz that it is today. And so it's a total different system today with the 800 megahertz system because it's computer-based, digital-based. Before it was kind of the old eyesight scenario. And for Baldwin Fire, Northeast Sherburne, when it first started, they needed that tower for their VHF communication. So that's why that tower was put in that spot for Sherburne County.
So to finish my thought, Dan, going forward, if we can get better maps to understand that.
I can use,
looking
it was
back
the
at-
same company that did that one, did this one.
Right.
So I'm going to send them back the other one and say, this one illustrates it better.
Yeah, and that might be something, if they could include that as part of the 24-29, so that we can add that to what we're pushing forward.
Yeah.
Might be a good idea too, because if we can prove that there's a reason that they put it there, and those maps will do that, I think that's in our interest as a planning commission to say, hey, well, we looked at this and this is got to be there, and it takes the burden off of us.
Yeah, because there's no other place to put it.
Again, it goes back to based on the coverage maps.
Well, and that's not the only factor. I mean, they have to have a property owner who's willing to lease land to them too. So maybe there were 2 or 3 other lots, but those landowners don't want it.
Yep.
So
You'll find a
There's a
limit.
multitude of factors that go into it, and as Dan said, we really don't have a way of, it met the criteria as listed, we didn't have a avenue to deny it.
Okay, let's go on the horn with the commissioner update. Commissioner Stoffren.
I think I said enough.
Okay, Commissioner Bostock. West.
Ed has something.
No, I'll wait till the camera's off.
Okay.
Oh, nothing.
It's a personal thing, I don't want.
I'm good tonight.
Myself as well. Just thank you very much, everybody, for your. That brings us to I, city staff update.
Mr. Chair, so the next special meeting, we'll be talking about a directive from the city council to look at provisions for generational housing. So going right at the comp plan list. And then the next regular meeting, we have an application for an AT&T tower on the Country Pup kennel site. Given that there had been interest in the kennel conditional use permit, I expect we will have interest in the proposed cell tower as well.
Okay.
I guess I do
Here we
have
go,
one.
rock and roll.
Is July 29th the 4th?
Yes, I believe it is.
That just seems,
So far away.
I don't have my phone, it's in my truck, so.
23rd, 22nd.
It would be the
It's like
22nd.
the 5th, yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
The 5th, that'd be the 5th.
You know, after I
The 5th,
saw
you're
that
right.
date, I thought, that seems too far out.
Yeah.
28 or less.
Because that'd be 5 Wednesdays in the
Right,
month.
you're correct.
Because the 4th is on a Saturday.
So it's the 22nd.
Yeah. When I looked at my calendar, it's a new.
Still awake.
I got this new computer and I, can't read the calendar.
Well, I was trying to look there and I can't see those 2 small calendars above Commissioner Barnes' head, so.
Just read what was on the screen, I didn't even question it.
Is that something like Kayla could do, like make a Google invite to those meetings? So it's on our calendars? Or am I the only one that's relevant to?
I'd do that.
Yeah, you do.
Us have added mine already.
Second and fourth Tuesdays
Yeah.
or Wednesdays.
Yeah.
That's how.
Actually,
Every Wednesday.
Yeah, I actually have the
Yeah.
8th and 22nd
Well,
as our meetings.
You will actually get the 29th off.
Unless it's a 5th Wednesday, then you
Right.
have it off.
Those are the best days.
Don't think so.
Fifth Mondays, fifth Wednesdays.
I tell you what, we're at 9:30.
Oh, yeah.
Overtime.
Okay, that brings us to J, miscellaneous information communications, notes 1 through 4 below. And K, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned, 9:31. Thank you very, very much.